what is addiction? If you go on the internet, let's say, and look up the definition of addiction, you'll find lots of things like physical dependency, right? Or phrases like engaging in harmful behavior, right? Compulsive, harmful behavior. And while those things are true, it actually fails to recognize the totality of how the creator views addiction to be. You see, we humans love to make judgments about other people and not examine our own behavior, right? So, like, if a person is addicted to methamphetamines, well, it's easy for us to look at them and say, oh, they're addicted, which is true. But it fails to recognize our own addictions that are more subtle, okay? So let's take a look at my understanding of what addiction is, okay? Addiction is the consumption or reception of energetic substance in an attempt to avoid feeling our feelings of terror. Okay? So there's two kinds of addictions mainly. There's physical and there's emotional. Consumption relates to the physical. Okay? So let's talk about that for a second. Okay? Now, I know I mentioned methamphetamine earlier, but let's talk about some other physical addictions that are still addictions, but less obvious. Okay? How about cannabis? I enjoy cannabis. And why not, right? It's a cool-ass plant. You can build a house with it. You can eat the leaves, you can make cooking oil out of it, right? You can wear it, you can make clothing out of it, okay? And you can smoke it. And, all kinds of other ways, right? And yes, I agree that cannabis is a medicine, but, medicine isn't what we think it is. And I'll talk about medicine in another video. Now, is consuming cannabis more loving than, like, let's say, consuming alcohol? Yeah. Like, objectively, cannabis is objectively less harmful than alcohol, okay? That doesn't mean it's loving. If you go back to our video on what is morality, I break down God's view of behavior that goes from loving behavior to evil behavior, and in the middle you've got a wide spectrum of non-loving behavior, okay? So if you're looking to progress and grow in love, right? It's the name of the channel, and grow in developing your relationship with the creator being, we need to start understanding this place in his terms, okay? And she views this place as a progression of behavior, okay? So, yeah, I know this is a tough one to hear for all my friends out there that are cannabis enthusiasts, it is an addiction. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just saying be honest with yourself about it. And like when I engage with cannabis, I'm honest with myself about it. I say, I'm getting ready to cover my emotions right now. But I'm going to enjoy it. That you can be honest and still enjoy the experience, okay? And that's a lot of people get hung up on that, right? You think if you're admitting the truth about something that you can't enjoy it, you absolutely can enjoy it. Absolutely can, okay? People do this with food all the time, right? You want to enjoy pizza? Go ahead, enjoy pizza. But pizza is one of the least loving things that you can actually put in your body. How about coffee? So many people drink coffee, right? It is everywhere, and it's big business, okay? Well, have you ever, for all you coffee drinkers out there, have you ever gone cold turkey off caffeine? You will experience physical withdrawal. It's a drug, which means it's an addiction. And where does addiction fit on this spectrum of emotional layers that act inside of us, okay? Let's go through it real quick. Let's go from here, okay? We start out with grief. We've got intense sadness inside of ourselves, deep, deep down. from not feeling loved unconditionally all the time as the Creator would love us, okay? Again, parents think they're loving their children, and in some cases they are, but in not all the cases, okay? I've talked about that a lot, and I'll talk about it more, but that's the truth, okay? Now, we don't want to feel our fear, so terror or fear builds up over top of that grief. And it's this, I mean, we don't want to feel this either, but it's this that we really don't want to feel. And so that's where addictions come into play, right? So like when you're drinking coffee, you're actually satisfying an addiction because you don't want to feel your own terror. And you know what, you think about it, like what's the difference, what's the main difference between these two substances? Cannabis will slow you down and potentially stimulate your imagination, whereas coffee speeds up your physical body and puts you in a position to want to produce. And that is why most employers will provide this drug for you for free. Because you drink it and you become more productive, right? How about wine? Wine is alcohol. Alcohol is poison. It destroys your brain cells. This is not my opinion. This is the truth. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink wine. Own it, okay? How many suburban, light-skinned, toned households have you been in with live, laugh, love, on the walls that also say things like wine time or, I cook with wine, just not in the food, Like, we love to make jokes about this, right? Like, it's cute and endearing to be wasted. Right? Is it? It's really an addiction covering your terror or fear. Okay? Remember, fear, false expectations appearing real. Do you fear dying? It's a false belief. Because the Creator knows we don't actually die. I'll talk more about that in another video. How about television? Or, you know what, a better word for this would be programs. Like, maybe you're not watching television, but you're streaming something. They call them programs for a reason. Hey, I work hard all day. I want to come home. I want to not think about life. I just want to watch the stories, right? It's an addiction because you don't want to feel your fear. And think about it, when you sit and watch something, not only are you absorbing the emotional impressions of that particular thing, which, by the way, if you're watching mainstream stuff, it's full of symbology that is dark. I'm not going to go into all that now, but there's plenty of information out there on the internet that talks about this stuff. Go ahead and find it. Go ahead and look it up. How about shopping? Retail therapy, right? I want to buy shit. It's going to make me feel good, right? We tell ourselves that. How long after you buy a bunch of shit do you not feel great about it anymore? Usually it's pretty quickly, right? Within like a week or two, maybe? Maybe even less than that. Who knows? Hey, I worked hard for my money. I can do with it whatever I want. Yeah, totally. But are you passionate about what you're doing? Does your soul enliven when you do what you do? Or is it slowly darkening your condition and you don't actually really want to do it? And you don't want to feel your terror about it? So you engage in an addiction to buy things to make you feel better. These are the ones we can see, okay? If you engage in any of these, in my view, if you want to grow in love and you engage in any of this stuff and more, I mean, these are just examples, admit it to yourself. Hey, I'm eating this food because I'm suppressing my emotions. I'm going to go out and buy stuff I don't need because I'm suppressing my emotions. I'm going to watch something on TV because I'm suppressing my emotions. If you do that to yourself, it will be far easier for you to get to the underlying emotion, right? I'm calling it terror, but there's like different aspects related to whatever you experienced in your life, right? If your parents engaged in reckless behavior and as a child and you felt unsafe or uncared for, or that your needs were not being met, right? Terror. We talked in a previous video, we talked about male genital mutilation. Some people call it circumcision. There is terror associated with having your genitals mutilated. If you're circumcised, fellas, you have this inside of you. Far better to admit it to yourself if you want to grow in love. Okay? By no means am I telling you have to. I honor your free will. Now let's talk about the emotional. Emotional addictions. In my view, these are far more insidious because you can't see them. And even like the stuff that we see, we deny. So, imagine how much easier it is to stay in denial if you can't see this stuff. Let's go through it real quick. Okay. An example of an emotional addiction is I want other people to agree with my worldview. If only this place had this, or if only we were doing that, it would be far better. And how dare you not agree with me? How dare you not have the same priorities I have? Because if you have priorities, obviously they're the most important things in your life, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be your priorities. So we have an inflated sense of self, and we want others to agree with our worldview, okay? How about politics? How dare you not like the candidate I like? Or how dare you attack the candidate I like? That's heavy addiction. How about this? Take care of me. Do you find it difficult to tell the truth to your parents because they may cut you off financially? Are they supporting you and your lifestyle? And you allow yourself to not tell the truth and meet their addictions because you have too much terror? Because you have the addiction that you want other people to care for you? If you were interested in growing in love, you tell everyone the truth all the time, including your parents. Because if your parents are in error, who else are they going to hear the truth from? Because chances are they've constructed their world that everyone else in their world is agreeing with their worldview, right? How about praise me? Look at my paintings. Aren't they so great? Look at this booty down here. I don't know if you can see it, right? Look at this booty. Isn't this the best booty that ever bootied? If I think that's the best booty that ever bootied, why would I care if anyone else agrees with me or not? Why do I need someone to tell me, hey, that's a great painting, Michael, you should keep doing it? Maybe I keep painting because I like to paint. Right? Many artists have this addiction. Praise me, love me. validate my beliefs. You know, there are certain sects of Christianity that are called evangelical, which means it is part of their belief system that they go out in an attempt to convert other people who do not believe what they believe to believe what they believe. If what you believed is the truth, why does it matter if anyone else believes it? If you're a Christian person and you were not surrounded by other Christian people to validate your view, would you still be Christian? Would you have the courage to be able to hold and sit with your own beliefs without forcing others to accept that view? Remember, the Creator doesn't force us to do anything. So we know that is loving behavior, right? So we know that honoring people's free will is loving behavior. So if you need other people to validate your beliefs and you're attempting to force them to do so, that's non-loving. Or even if you're not forcing them to do so and you just surround yourself with people who agree with you, you know? Validate my beliefs. Okay. How about this one? Love me. Are you realizing that through some of these videos that we're talking about and some of the behavior that is loving and non-loving, from the Creator's perspective, again, not my opinion, from the Creator's perspective, that you were actually not loved by your parents often? They don't have to love you. It's an addiction. How about the other way around? How about parents? Do you have a child that doesn't love you? They're allowed to not love you. Feel about that. Feel your own hurt and loss. And then ultimately, if you get through your grief here, you'll realize the Creator's truth that she honors all of our free will. And it's totally cool if no one loves you. You won't need the love of an external person when you are receiving God's love. And again, we receive God's love when we are living in humility, which means we accept and own, take responsibility for feeling all of our own emotions, and living in truth, the Creator's view of truth. Humility plus truth equals love. What if you're stuck in some of these? And you start to recognize, oh man, I do that. Pray to God to reveal His love to you. His truth. Right? It's all about your intention. Do you really want to know? If you really want to know, you can be humble and quiet and ask the Creator, and she will tell you. Okay, what about if you're in this stuff and people aren't meeting your addiction, right? This is the best way to recognize it, right? Because as we talked in other videos, when your addictions are not being met, what comes next? Rage or anger, okay? And we don't like to admit we've got anger inside of us. A lot of us were taught that we shouldn't feel our anger. Our parents scare us into not feeling our anger. Or society gets freaked out. You know, I have neighbors, they're pretty cool. When they moved in, I told them, I'm like, hey, I scream. So, and I told them why. I told them all this stuff, you know? And if you hear like random screaming in the middle of the day, that's just me releasing my emotions, you know, don't freak out about it. That's fine, you know, that's fine. If we talk about this stuff then other people know what it is, okay? It remains not hidden. Remember, judgments hurt us. Judgments are other people's view of acceptable behavior. We've got that stuff inside of us too. It keeps us from admitting we've got this inside of ourselves, okay? So sometimes we don't get our addictions met, and maybe we cry. And we think we're releasing grief, but we're actually not. We're in addiction. Because maybe you were taught to cry to get what you want. Okay, so to wrap up, addiction, the consumption or reception of energetic substance in an attempt to avoid feeling our feelings of terror. Energetic substance, it's intentionally broad. But remember, when you're interacting with a person, there's a spiritual component to every interaction you have. You're sharing emotional material, okay? And that's where a lot of these emotions come from, right? So like if I have the addiction of needing feminine approval, okay? Sometimes just having a conversation with a female friend of mine who agrees with my worldview gives me that, you see? I actually had a conversation with a good friend of mine today, hadn't seen her in months. We're talking about some of the world events, some of this stuff going on, how to overcome it. We share many views about how to overcome it. But we disagree in areas too, So like for example, she believes that we are all one. And I do not believe we are all one. I believe that we are individual souls that have true uniqueness from the Creator's perspective. That's okay. We can disagree with that. She can share how she feels, and as her friend, I will listen to her, and I will pay attention to her. I will take in what she says, and I'll see if it applies to my life at all. And likewise, she does the same. There's no harm in saying, I disagree with you here, I disagree with you there, That's loving communication. So in conclusion, you're going to be doing yourself a favor if you admit that you got physical addictions. You're going to be doing yourself a huge favor if you admit to yourself you have emotional addictions. Okay? Again, I encourage you to experiment with this stuff. You don't have to believe me or trust me. You have the ability to do it yourself. Good luck, friends. Love and peace.